All right, welcome to the Big Texas Podcast presented by Texas Young Republicans. I'm your host, Jordan Overturf, coming to you on the first day of early voting. That's right, it's finally here. Early voting has started in Texas. You can go cast your ballot in person at any polling location in your home county or your county where you're registered to vote. It is here, finally. Why am I so aggressive with that? I don't know. I guess I'm just excited that, we're finally to this point in the election cycle where voters can go out and cast their ballots. My guest today is one of those candidates you can go cast your vote for. Her name is Lacey Hull. She is the Republican candidate running in House District 138 to replace outgoing state representative Dwayne Bohac. For those who are paying attention this cycle, House District 138 is one of these key targeted districts where we need Republicans to turn out in droves across this district to make sure we beat back any attempts of a blue wave. I had a great talk with Lacey. She's from this district. I grew up just south of this district, actually. So, we connected over all the fun things going on in that western part of Houston. Before we get to that, as always, we've got a little bit of housekeeping. A reminder, this weekend, we're headed down to Lacey's district, House District 138. Texas YRs are going to be deploying, and we are going to be knocking doors, doing the same thing we've been doing this entire cycle in these targeted districts. So if you want to get signed up, you can go to our website, texasyr.gop/deployments. We've got 2 deployments left this weekend for Lacey Hull. And then next weekend, YRs will head back to Collin County where they will help State Representative Matt Shaheen in the final push for the last weekend of early voting. So if you want to get involved, you want to take part, make sure you go to our website, texasyr.gop/deployments. That's where you can get all the info, get signed up, take part, do all the fun stuff. Okay, another thing. So as comms director of Texas YRs, one of the things we're trying to do is make sure that YRs are getting their voices out there. One of the ways that you can do that is as you go out to cast your vote, make sure you do a couple key things. One, don't take a selfie inside the voting location. They'll be very upset at you if you try to do that. Don't do that. Instead, go outside, either find one of the Texas House candidates that you are voting for, find one of their signs and take a picture next to that. If they're out at the polling place or there's some poll greeters, go take a photo with those folks. And make sure that when you post on social media, this might be tough on Twitter because, character limits, post a thread. You'll get this. Make sure that you are tagging all of the Republican candidates that you are supporting in that race. We want to make sure that we are getting the word out and letting folks know that they are voting all the way down the ballot from the White House to the courthouse. We are voting Republican. There is no more straight ticket voting here in Texas. So you need to make sure and fill in every candidate that you want to vote for. If you leave a race blank, that's what they called undervoting, and that your vote doesn't count in that race. So if you want to make sure Republicans are elected all the way down the ballot, you need to make sure and fill out the entire ballot, select the button on the electronic voting. However your county is doing it, make sure you vote Republican all the way down the ballot. And then make sure if you're posting to social media, you include as many of those candidates in your post as possible. That way, everyone in your network, friends who live in your area can see that you're getting out there, you're voting, and these are the people that you are supporting. Okay. We'll do the same hashtag TYRF votes, Texas YRs vote YR, all those kind of things. So make sure you're just being a part of the discussion, helping your friends get out and vote early. Okay, that's it. That's the end of my soapbox. We are going to go ahead and get out of the way. I'm going to get out of the way because I'm talking too much. Had a great chat with Lacey. Hope everyone has fun going down to work with her on this deployment this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Ms. Lacey Hull. Started today. How are you feeling? How pumped are you for the start of early voting?
I'm feeling good. I'm glad it's here. We're at the beginning of the end, and we have worked so hard, and it's finally here.
Yeah, I mean, how long ago did you get started in this race?
That was the very end of September of last year when Dwayne Bohac announced that he was retiring.
Yeah, so you're in one of these rare open seat races where you're trying to step in for someone who has served that district for a long time. Were you nervous initially when you decided to jump into this race, and what kind of inspired you to run this campaign?
Definitely. So it was, never really a goal of mine, to run for office. And then, Dwayne announced that he was retiring. So we were looking at, who needed to fill the shoes and who could win the district. And so I've been involved in helping other candidates and going to Austin. And so I thought, who better than someone who's from the district and knows it well to run to represent it.
Well, that's excellent. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background. You were born in this district. I was reading. Did I read correct?
Yeah.
Are you a University of Houston graduate?
Yes, I am.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. You know what?
You too.
I have been waiting for U of H alumni to interview, and I love this. I am thrilled. Look, if you're not voting in HG 138 right now, you better go do it, especially if you're a U of H grad. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll get over my excitement for a fellow alum. Lacey, give us a little bit of a rundown on your background. You're from this district. Tell us, who is Lacey Hull?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in this district. I grew up going to the schools here. I went to Spring Branch ISD public schools here, and went to U of H, majored in political science and history. So, poli-sci is always an interest of mine, but running for office was never really a goal. I married my husband. We went to San Diego where he was stationed in the Marines. And so I started to get involved there, helping Republican candidates and causes in the legislature as an activist, and kind of watched as, small businesses left because of the overburden of regulation and high taxes, families left the high taxes and just the erosion of liberty in that state, and then moved back here. And so started to get involved doing the same thing, helping Republican candidates and causes and being an activist in the legislature. And so when Dwayne announced that he was retiring, it was, I was already somewhat comfortable, knowing and being involved in campaigns and the legislature in the past.
Excellent. Well, I imagine that experience really paid off, and helped you be less nervous than a lot of first-time candidates, I imagine.
Yeah. I was definitely nervous because, again, running for office was definitely not a goal of mine. It was outside of my personality, but I saw the need yeah.
Excellent. Well, this looks like a pretty tough race in terms of the dynamics of how the electorate has changed over these past election cycles. I guess for you personally, what was the reason that you got involved? Why are you running in this campaign specifically?
So in this campaign specifically, you mean why I'm running?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's several issues, and especially for this district, that are so crucial. Obviously, being from here, I know some of the issues of this district, and flooding is a huge issue here, and a huge issue that we really need to work on. There's definitely not enough oversight with the money that we send from the state. So, the state, we can't do the projects, but we can send the money, and we should know where our money is being spent and where it's going, and if the projects are actually being completed and completed on time and properly. And that's a big complaint that I hear. It's like a huge common issue that I hear. So I would love to do some work on that. And property taxes, especially in this district, a major, major problem. And so people, especially some of the elderly, are worried about, getting taxed out of their homes. And so I know last session we did some work on that as the state as a whole, but more work can be done on that. Human trafficking, major issue. And Houston is a major problem, with human trafficking. And so I would love to see some more work on that, crack down on, stricter penalties, more law enforcement along the border, making sure all the movement with the radical movement to defund the police and making sure that doesn't happen, and to keep our community safe. It's huge in this district too. Even with the swing voters, the doors that we're knocking on, there's really, they are not, they do not want the police defunded at all. So that has been very good to see.
So we've got some YRs who are going to be coming down and knocking in your district this weekend. Tell them a little bit about this district. What area does it cover? And, what can they expect when they come down to House District 138 this weekend?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I'm so grateful that y'all are coming. Thank you so much. Democrats have so much more money than we do this cycle, and knocking doors is where the difference is made. And so talking to these voters. And so this district it's Spring Branch out to a little bit of Katy, and it covers Bear Creek, a little Cy-Fair. It's sandwiched in between I-10 and 290, and then a little over to 610, and then past Highway 6 by Barker Cypress. Mm-hmm. And so we neighbor with the one Mike Schofield is running in, and the one Justin Ray is running in, and then to the south, Jim Murphy, and then the other side, Luis Larada is running in. Mm-hmm. And so, we're kind of right in the middle of West Houston. And as far as what to see, you'll see my signs with Crenshaw signs, with Trump signs, and you'll see my signs with Biden signs. And so that is where those crossover voters, that's what's been huge in those, in this district. You will hear at the doors, people say they're voting for Biden, but they're voting Republican the rest of the ballot. Or they're voting for Biden and then kind of picking and choosing the rest of the ballot. And so that's we're trying to keep it very candidate centric just about this campaign. People kind of want to talk about Trump or federal stuff at the doors. And so we're really just trying to keep it about, this race. And so the issues I said, those are kind of some of the main things you will hear. Maybe some education issues may come up, or COVID. I do hear people that are wanting businesses to reopen fully. And those are kind of some of the main issues. And demographics, the district is it's about 40-ish% Anglo, and then about 40-ish% Hispanic. Mm-hmm. And then the Asian population is the next largest, and then it goes down to African American, and then they say, yes, they classified as other. So we're doing, and I'm not quite sure which exactly doors y'all will be knocking, but I know we're really trying to target all of the undecideds. Mm-hmm. And we do have help with some other groups targeting the Hispanic and Asian communities within the district, which has been wonderful, trying to get those undecideds. But that's really it. And they just, those are, I feel like, the main issues and the kind of demographics. And this district is interesting because you'll have have the full range of like socioeconomic backgrounds. You'll have very impoverished neighborhoods, and then very wealthy neighborhoods, and kind of everything in between. So, and they could be, a few blocks away from each other too. So Houston's very interesting like that, but
yeah. I grew up just south of that district in the Alief area. So, Yeah. Of course, that area is drastically different now. Highway 6 used to have plenty of fields and things like that when I was a kid. And now it just seems like it's wall-to-wall strip centers all the way down the highway there, which is good because that means that, obviously the economy has been good in that area, jobs, things like that. But you did mention COVID and that being an issue that's being brought up in the district. I guess for you, how have you and the campaign been operating in this era of COVID, and what are some of those other responses you're hearing? And I got to imagine, as a small business owner yourself, that you have to, be sharing some of that perspective with these folks.
Definitely. And so, I mean, as far as our reception at the doors, people, it's been positive overall. We put the door hangers on the door, and then we step really far, or ring the doorbell and then step really far back. So there's like over 6 feet. So there's really no interaction with the voters. So I feel like the people that are uncomfortable are the ones that just aren't opening their doors, because we've had no negative interaction. Yeah. And then at the door, talking about small businesses, people will talk about either losing their jobs, opening the economy back up, how their business was affected by COVID. And so, yeah, I mean, those are, but usually people, I feel like still the main issue we hear is flooding.
Yeah, that's
So,
interesting. And these legislative sessions really are complicated to navigate, in that you spend so much time addressing what happens before. And for the last couple of sessions, it really feels like, the legislature has just gotten hammered with these major disasters hitting, after the fact. So all the work that was done to address Harvey and flooding and things like that got done during the session, but now everyone's talking about coronavirus. What is our updated pandemic response plan? And so, hopefully those mitigation efforts will be built upon in this next session. But I know it's going to be a tough discussion with so much else going on in the legislature. Lacey, for you personally, I know a lot of voters, whether Republican, Democrat, or undecided, ultimately want to know, what are the issues you yourself are planning to go and push for if elected in the legislature? What are some of the passion issues that you're talking to voters about specifically?
the human trafficking, it's a huge one. Yeah, and the law enforcement issue. Those are huge issues that I care about, and that the voters also really care about, and they want to hear about. And I know even at the doors, like when they're reading they kind of look at my card, and everyone's like, "Oh yes, human trafficking." So that is something that is huge that people resonate with, and yeah, I'm sure that that will come up at the door too. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And I know the legislature made that a huge part of the priority. And that's become more of the discussion of what's happening with border security now. Even though we're still seeing reports from the border that, one of the largest meth busts in a number of years just happened. As for the police issue, a lot of the candidates that I talked to, unless they are in Austin proper, there seems to be this pushback from Democrats that, oh, well, it's not happening here, right? But that was the argument forever when we talked about the policies in California or New York. We would say, oh, well, that's not happening here in Texas. Now, Austin has become this microcosm of understanding what really happens when you decide to defund police. A report that I saw today, the governor actually tweeted out that they are seeing a rise in the response times because they don't have enough officers out in the field because they, don't have the funding for all of those positions. So response times are going hours before police are being able to show up. So when you talk about this issue, how do you counter the idea that, oh, well, that's just in Austin, that can't happen here, or that's only in California or New York, that can't happen here?
Well, one, I would say currently it's good that our Houston mayor is not on board with defunding the police, and neither is our city council. So I'm thankful for that. But a lot of it, and I know like Abbott was talking about tying it to the revenue for the city to kind of incentivize cities to not to not defund the police. So it's something that when it gets brought up, it's something that we're going to have to look at in the next session to see how we can, whether it's tying it to the revenue or some other option to incentivize cities to not defund the police. And so it's something that we're definitely have to look at next session. And I feel like people, because it's happened in Austin, that people especially in Texas, are kind of more alert, like, oh, could that happen in my city? It happened in Austin. So it's definitely, and people are grateful that our mayor here is not. But yeah, it's definitely going to have to be a conversation that we have next session and see what sort of legislation is needed, because we definitely cannot let that happen here.
Excellent. Well, Lacey, as you look down the barrel of election day, what are you and your campaign focusing on? What are the big things that you are trying to get done before November 3rd?
Well, just talking to voters. So block walking, which all of you that are coming, thank you. That's huge. And then at the polls. So we'll have poll greeters and trying to, just because we know those people are coming to vote. So getting them, and if they're still undecided, because maybe they're voting for the president or in Congress, but they don't know anything else. And so, yeah, just getting and talking to those voters, that's where we're at. And that's what we're focusing on.
So as someone who is experienced in helping out other campaigns and things like that, do you have any tips for volunteers who may be going out to poll greet? How do you encourage someone to engage before they go in to cast their ballot?
So, well, I guess it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see in the time of COVID. I'm not quite sure what this is going to look like. But usually, if people are willing to talk, handing them my push card and asking them just to vote for me, and if they have any questions. But now it may just, I don't know how close we'll be able to get to people. It may just be holding a sign and saying, please vote for Lacey. So I'm not quite sure. This may be a trial and error the first couple of days of early voting.
Well, as we get ready to get out of here, I know YRs are looking forward to coming down. Hopefully the weather holds up. It's not as hot as it was this last weekend, second or third summer. I forget which one we're on right now, but I guess, what are you looking forward to most on November 3rd?
On November 3rd, mm-hmm. Our victory and keeping this seat red, and not just this seat, but the entire state, keeping the House red and not letting it flip. I am ready for that news.
Excellent. Well, here's your chance, Lacey, to speak directly to the voters in House District 138. Why should they vote for Lacey Hull?
Thank you so much, everyone. So, to the voters or to the
to the voters themselves. Well, I mean, obviously we want everyone to like you and be a fan of you as you head to, get ready to head to the legislature. But this is your chance to speak directly to the voters themselves.
Oh, to the voters. Okay. I was thinking the volunteers coming to help.
Yeah. No, the volunteers are already on board. And I'm going to try and get some U of H alum out there for you as well. But yeah, this is your chance, your platform to speak and address the voters specifically in House District 138.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I want safe communities and safe schools. I want to stop the radical movement to defund the police, more law enforcement along the border to stop human trafficking and drug cartels, more money in classrooms, increasing access to healthcare for women and children, and lowered property taxes. So I would be honored to have your vote in November. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, for those who are not involved yet, they want to contribute or volunteer or get a yard sign, how do they find you? Here's a great chance to give your website, social media, all that stuff.
LaceyHull.com, LaceyYhull.com. You can go on there and learn more about the issues. You can volunteer, all of that on there. You can reach out to us, a contact link, and we're happy. I'm happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, Lacey, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to it. And hopefully YRs have a blast with you this weekend. You have a lot of fun out at the polling locations, greeting voters and all that stuff. And this long, slow race to November 3rd.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the volunteers. Thank you.
Excellent. You have yourself a good one, Lacey.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you to Lacey for joining us. Thank you to you for tuning in. As always, you can find the YR podcast on Facebook and YouTube when we post this, or you can listen in your car on Apple iTunes Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcast. You can find the Big Texas Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Big Texas Podcast. And as always, make sure you are following the latest with Texas Young Republicans on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Texas YRs. Only a few more weeks to go. November 3rd is right around the corner. Make sure you vote early. If you've already done so and you're still hanging on watching this video, hit that like button on the video right now. Let's see how many people do it. I meant to say at the beginning, but I forgot. You ever forget? It happened to me. In any case, friends, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Make sure you get out and vote. Again, early voting ends on Friday, October 30th. Election day is November 3rd. Till then, friends, we'll see you down the road.